What's up, guys? Blaine Duncan here from Halloween Lives, the podcast of Michael Myers, joined as always by my brother Austin. What's up, dude? Welcome to episode 72, where we're going to take a somewhat deep dive into Halloween Kills this week and just tear the living hell out of this thing.
There's going to be people who may not like this one, and I will say I like it more, kind of similar to Halloween 2018, than I did when I initially saw it.
Right.
But I will never forget this marked our first movie that you and I went and saw together. We had the coolest night. Blaine, I think this night maybe needs just a couple minutes to go into it, because it was a legendary Duncan Brothers night. Halloween Kills. This was 20. What would this be? 2021?
2020? No, because 2020 was. Oh God, now I gotta look it up.
I'm looking it up too.
I think it was 2020. No, it was 2021 because we got kills and ends back to back. So it was 2021. Yeah, you're right.
So it was 2021 October, and Blaine and I knew after Halloween 2018, we're not gonna let that happen again, where we didn't see it on the same day. And we had scheduled out a whole night of Halloween festivities because, again, our two favorite things are Halloween. And we were going to go see Halloween Kills at kind of this old theater. And then we were going to go immediately to a local haunt near us. It's one of the larger ones in Minnesota.
Screamtown, baby.
Yeah,
Minneapolis or Minnesota people. Screamtown, you know what's up.
And there was like this little ride. We paid for the VIP experience. We wanted to be first in line and everything, which felt awesome. Never do that kind of stuff. So it was really nice. And there was this one ride, this hayride that we ended our night with. And we were kind of debating if we were going to even do it or not. We went on this hayride, and we got halfway through it with this probably 30 people with us. And where it's a hayride, and you pull up to these little stations and they jump out at you, they scare you, they do whatever. Eventually they just pick us two and they say, "You two come off." And this was not like something that everybody else on the ride was in on. And we got to do our own probably like a 25-minute walk through this solo
woods.
Yeah, and we had like a little lantern. It was just us, and all of the actors were there to scare us. It was a very big Duncan Brother moment. So there are a lot of good vibes that I carry with Halloween Kills that night, especially, even though the movie let us down a little bit. What were you expecting? What were you hoping out of this movie?
I mean, for me, I didn't really know. I do know that I learned my lesson with 2018, and that was that I did so much research on what the movie was going to be about. I watched the trailer and just studied the trailer, and because I think it had been so long since we had gotten our own Halloween film that I was so excited to get something that it was just like I was taking in everything that I could possibly get, and I was fangirling like a mother effer, like I really was. And I think I saw how much how disappointed I guess I was when I left the theater after 2018, because I saw all the good stuff and I kind of knew a lot about the subplot or the plot and really how the film was going to sort of go. That I remember I did this for Kills and I did this for Ends. I told myself I was going to watch the trailer one time, and it was the day that each of those films that the trailer was released. I'm sure sometime in early summer, since they were both released in October. I'm sure it was sometime in probably about this time that you got like your first teaser trailer, and then probably a little bit later on you got the real trailer. But I remember saying to myself, I'm going to watch the trailer one time and that's it. And then I stayed off of like all the the forums and things like that. We obviously didn't have this podcast at the time. Some of the podcasts and YouTube shows that I listened to that talked specifically about this, and were dissecting the film as these, news, updates would come out. I wouldn't watch any of that stuff. I was like, I want to go into this thing totally, totally blind. And I remember, obviously leaving the theater after we had seen kills, and I was just like, WTF, man. I mean, I felt like this after 2018, but I felt like this way different after kills. Like, I was disappointed, but for so many different reasons. And we're going to talk about some of those reasons tonight. We're going to dissect this film a little bit. If you've been a fan of this show or you've watched this show enough, you know that Austin and I are not the biggest fans of kills. Yes, we love it because it's a Halloween film. We love it because Michael Myers is in it. But there are just so many things that we dislike about this film, and for so many different reasons. And I'll be honest with you, and we can just talk about this right now, because I don't know that when we start talking about the plot here in a minute, I don't know that we really get into this too much, but we touched on it last week. And I think the writing in this film is the worst of the three of the trilogy. I think the writing is terrible. The evil dies tonight garbage is terrible. We've talked about that to death on this show. And we'll talk about it, I'm sure, as we go forward here, because we're going to talk about that scene. But I hated that. I absolutely hated that. And I just felt like the writing in this film was so bad. There was so many things that happened that were not believable at all. And we'll get into those here in just a minute. But overall, I went into it hoping to get something out of it that I didn't have with 2018. And that was like excitement and just, and we're going to talk about ends next week, but I left ends feeling totally opposite. Like, I went into ends thinking it was going to be a horseshit film, because that's all I was reading about on the internet was this movie's going to suck. If you're a true Halloween fan, you're not going to like it. And I went into it going, man, I am going to be so disappointed coming out of this film. And I ended up liking it, but we're not going to get too far ahead of ourselves, because we are going to talk about Halloween Ends next week. Let's get into this plot. Let's break this film down. All right. So here we go. After leaving the party, Cameron calls the deceased Oscar just to be left on voicemail. He walks to a fence and sees wounded Deputy Frank Hawkins laying in the street. As Cameron runs over to Hawkins' aid, the latter jolts up and tells Cameron he needs to die, and I'm the one who's going to kill him. So right off the bat, like, I think that's just, it's a terrible, cheesy line for Hawkins to say. If he wouldn't have said, and I'm the one who's going to kill him, if he would have just said it needs to die, I would have been like, okay, I get it. Like, he's thinking of Michael as more than a man, and he's not referring to him as, he needs to die. It needs to die. I would have been okay with that. But that whole, and I'm the one who's going to kill him, is just like too much like Bruce Willis, kind of like, action hero now sort of thing, or action. Like, I don't need Deputy Hawkins to be that guy.
And just about every character in this movie is about to become, this type of action hero,
right,
coming up forward.
Right. Now we do jump immediately into probably one of my favorite parts in the entire film. We jump into this flashback to 1978. So in a flashback to 1978, Hawkins accidentally shoots and kills his partner, Pete, in pursuit of Michael, before preventing Michael's psychiatrist, Samuel Loomis, from executing him in front of Myers' childhood home. All right, so very brief here talking about the flashback scene. But honestly, I remember when you and I were sitting in the theater watching this, I remember turning to you and be like, dude, this is freaking sweet, because it felt like basically a continuation of 1978. Like, you felt like you could have, when that film cut, you could roll right into this particular scene. Of course, you could see that it was shot, in with today's technology and cameras and things like that. But it felt like you were back in 78. I've heard very few people really dislike the flashback scene. And I think most people, even if you don't like this film, you do appreciate the flashback scene and what they were trying to do here. You and I have talked a little bit about the fact that, the mask was cool. And if it was the mask that we got in a future Halloween film, we'd be like, damn, they nailed that mask, man. That is freaking Michael Myers. But trying to do it as a flashback mask, it just, it didn't work. It just has a different look to it, so that in itself was a little bit disappointing. but everything else just felt amazing. I mean, the Myers house, the setting, it felt like you were in Haddonfield, and it was shot in a completely different area than where they filmed 78 and obviously Halloween 2. But yeah, what's your thoughts on the flashback scene?
Flashback scene has got to be my favorite part of the movie. It was easily the high of watching that movie in the movie theater that first time. I think Aaron Armstrong kicked ass as Michael Myers in that scene. I thought the actor, the like cameraman who they put some prosthetics on to look like Loomis, blew me away. In that scene, I was shocked, going like, that's one of the best deep fakes I've ever seen. And it turned out to be practical effects, which I think is probably very telling for what Hollywood should be doing.
Right.
But it was, I loved that whole scene, man. I was really happy with how they did it. There's a rumor going around right now that the TV series may be similar to this flashback scene taking place exclusively after the events of 1978, picking up immediately after. If the flashback scene tells you anything, there's something there that could be explored, and I'd be very happy if that was the case. Yeah,
I
man,
agree.
absolutely my favorite part of the movie.
I would be totally down for that. I would
Yeah.
I would be absolutely down for that. All right, so then we continue on. In present day, Tommy Doyle celebrates the 40th anniversary of Michael's imprisonment with longtime friends Marion Chambers, Lindsay Wallace, and Cameron's dad, Lonnie Elam. So again, this is taking place the same night as 2018. So, the movie came out a few years later, but it is still taking place on Halloween night 2018. Meanwhile, after their confrontation with Michael, Laurie Strode, her daughter Karen, and her granddaughter Allison are horrified when they see firefighters heading to the burning Strode residence, accidentally freeing Michael from the basement. Using their tools, Michael single-handedly murders the firefighters before driving back to Haddonfield, Illinois. Karen and Allison submit Laurie to, this is written so weird, like they submit Laurie to an emergency room. Is that what you do? You submit somebody? I don't think so.
This was written
Karen,
by a British person.
yeah, exactly. Karen and Allison submit Laurie to emergency surgery while Michael kills an elderly couple in their home. An emergency alert informs Tommy, Marion, Lindsay, and Lonnie of Michael's escape before bar patron Vanessa supposedly encounters Michael in the back seat of her car. Tommy and the others confront Michael as the car drives away and crashes. The driver leaves unnoticed by the crowd. Okay, so a lot going on in this scene. I will say I thought the way that they had Michael escape, if you will, from from Laurie Strode's house as it's on fire, I thought that was a really cool scene. We talked a little bit last week about how I didn't necessarily care for the way that I didn't mind Michael being trapped in a fire in the basement, but I didn't necessarily care for like the bars or the rods or whatever, the entrapment, I guess, if you will, of Michael in the basement. I didn't care for that. But the way the firefighters arrived and they're going in and they're doing their search and the one firefighter goes through the floor, which creates this opening to the basement. And the other firefighter reaches down, just perfect, like ladder 49 style. He's gonna save his brother firefighter, and he reaches down, and who does he encounter but Michael Myers? Michael ends up coming out of the house, and he's got one of our tools that we carry. It's called a Halligan tool. He's got that, and he's just ready to kick ass and take names. And he goes down, and it's a bad night to be a Haddonfield firefighter. Let's say that, because he wipes out this entire crew of firefighters with some gnarly kills. Like one of them takes one of their saws, and he's got it, and Michael steals it, and he uses the saw on them. And there's another scene where he takes, I don't know what tool it is, if it's the Halligan or what it is, but he jams it into the face piece of the one firefighter, and you get that shot, like that point of view angle of that tool coming through his face piece mask. And it's just it's a great scene. And I loved it. But you get all this, you get the elderly couple. I don't want to say elderly, they're older, the older couple, which very odd couple, by the way. I will say, like, very odd couple. Because he's got like this. I was thinking of him because he was on the show Rescue Me about firefighters. He's got this super thick East Coast accent, and she's this black lady who's like flying around a damn what the hell are those? A
A drone.
drone. It's just a weird couple. But Michael sneaks into their house and he's like bandaging himself up, which I thought was kind of cool because they're at least acknowledging the fact that he just had his 3 fingers blown off or 2 fingers blown off his hand. I thought that was kind of cool. I don't know.
I remember having issues with it when I first saw that he had a bandaged hand because I was like, "Oh, that doesn't feel very Michael to me." But
Right.
again, like I've said a couple times, I think the more you separate Michael from like a Jason, where Jason feels a little more mindless, he's on a mission. He's going to take care of himself, and the fact that we know he can take care of himself is going to be very important for the next movie,
Right.
moving forward as well.
Right.
But yeah, that the scene with Michael and the firefighters, amazing action piece. It feels a little bit less like the stealthy Mike I've come to love, but still a great scene, like you said, nonetheless.
Yeah, and sort of a fun. I know Austin knows this, and I was recently talking with one of our viewers, Mike from Oklahoma. He's also a firefighter down in Tulsa, I believe it is. But him and I were chatting about. I applied to be an extra firefighter for this film. I didn't obviously know at the time what the scene was going to be specific to, but I was like, dude, how cool would that be, right? To apply and to actually get picked to be a firefighter in a Halloween film and get killed off by Michael Myers. I mean, that would have been like an absolute dream come true. Never ended up even hearing back from the company, but they had put out like this thing that they were looking for extras to play firefighters. And I was like, hell yeah, I'll go out there for free. You don't have to pay my flight. You don't have to pay me nothing. Like, I want to go out and I want to get killed by Michael Myers and be a firefighter. I thought that would have been super cool, but no such luck.
I feel like it would have been a different story today, man. You got to be the most prolific firefighter Michael Myers fan combo at this point.
That's true.
But alas, they didn't make the movie. Maybe the TV series. We'll see what happens.
You never know. If the people who are making the TV series are looking for a firefighter, I'm your guy. Pick up my boy Mike down in Oklahoma. Fly us out together. We'll do this thing. So anyway, continuing on, you get all of this sort of commotion. You start to see this mob mentality thing going on because Tommy Doyle is kind of getting the troops gathered, if you will, because they think Michael has been spotted in this vehicle outside the bar, and he's got like his freaking bat at this point that he had gotten from the bar, and like you just start to see this sort of mob mentality start to grow in town, that the town is in a way seeking revenge. Like the town is like, we're not doing this again. We're not living through this night, what we lived through 40 years ago. And Tommy really is the one at the helm of that whole thing. So continuing on, Karen and Allison are informed of Michael's escape, information that Karen decides to withhold from Laurie so that she can recover. Cameron invites Allison into joining him and his father hunt down Michael while Laurie and Hawkins awake and reminisce about their former relationship. I don't know if they don't really reminisce about a relationship. I don't feel like. I wouldn't call it that. Would you?
It was like, I think he brought her home from the bar because she was drunk one night or something like that. And they might have shared a kiss, but it was kind of like
any of that.
Oh, no, I think there's some talk about like there was some night where he took care of her or something, and maybe they shared a kiss. I don't remember. Either way, if it's the most forced shit ever in this movie. I mean, we're trying to make this connection between Hawkins and Laurie. Whatever,
they're pushing
dude.
that hard. Well, and let's not forget that Laurie was in surgery for like within like 15 minutes of this film opening. Laurie was in surgery, like full on surgery. Like she's split wide open. They're showing the surgeons. And all of a sudden she's just like waking up and having these jovial conversations with Hawkins. Like she's randomly sharing a hospital room with some dude. It's like, I don't think there's too many hospitals anymore that actually make people share like patient rooms. Maybe in Haddonfield it doesn't, maybe in Haddonfield they do, but and nonetheless, it doesn't matter. We see this conversation happening between these two, so elsewhere, Marion, Lindsay, Vanessa, and her husband Marcus are attacked by Michael while warning Haddonfield citizens to stay inside. All but Lindsay are killed as Tommy, Lonnie, Cameron, and Allison subsequently find Lindsay alive. While Tommy takes Lindsay to the hospital, Lonnie, Cameron, and Allison map out Michael's victims and deduce that he is heading back to his childhood home. Meanwhile, Tommy reunites with his former Haddonfield sheriff, Lee Brackett, whose daughter, Annie Brackett, was killed in 1978. Tommy organizes a mob of hundreds of Haddonfield citizens, informing Lori of Michael's survival. Meanwhile, Michael murders the current homeowners of his childhood home as Lori prepares to kill herself. So, once again, we got a lot going on here. Let's break this down a little bit because there is a lot that's going on. Like we talked about the whole Hawkins, that whole conversation. But you get this really, I don't know. I like the scene, I guess, where Marion and Lindsay and Vanessa are and what's his name, Marcus, are all in this car, and Michael attacks. And before that, you get like these shithead kids who are wearing the three silver shamrock that you see over here. I would not be a good weatherman. I'd be like, and moving in from the east or the west, whichever direction this is, it's coming this way. But you see them wearing the silver shamrock masks, and I think that's super cool. Like, just a really cool throwback. We saw those in 2018 as well, but we get them here. But once again, these a-hole kids aren't listening, and they're like playing basically like hide and seek with Michael Myers or peekaboo.
Yeah.
I don't know what the hell they're doing, but they're like, that guy in the white mask over there, and Michael's just standing there like, watching them. But you get this really cool death scene with them, and Vanessa, one of like the worst death scenes that you could possibly ever have. She's got like this freaking Desert Eagle or something.
Yeah.
It's like this massive handgun. And Michael just kicks this door closed and she shoots herself in the head. And it was like, oh, okay, that was a lot for nothing, I guess. Maybe, I don't know, whatever. That was a terrible death scene. Her husband Marcus taking like the knife to the eye. That made my face hurt. Like, that made my eyes water watching that whole scene. But yeah, then we're at the hospital. There's this whole mob mentality thing going on where Tommy he's trying to rally the troops, and we see Lee Brackett, who is looking rough, man. That dude is not aged well. I mean, he's like 90 years old, so I shouldn't shit on him too much, but he's an old dude now. He's looking pretty rough, but he's now working as a security guard at Haddonfield Memorial Hospital. And then finally you get this awesome scene that takes place over the course of 10 or 15 minutes where we actually go back to the Myers house, present day. Without question, this is my favorite part of the whole movie. Even beats out the flashback scene for me. I just absolutely love the fact that they took us back to the Myers house in present day, and you see this couple, this gay couple that are now living in the house. They've changed they've obviously changed a lot about the house. It's decorated differently. The walls are painted differently. The house is painted differently, which actually is really cool. The house is painted the same color as the real house is painted today, like blue and white with red trim. I thought that was super cool, and it's something I'd never noticed until I saw somebody had pointed it out online. But I think that's really cool that they actually made the house appear as though it appears today. So I love that whole scene. They go and they kind of tell this ghost story about Judith Myers and how she, they can hear her, calling out or whatever the hell they say. And they're trying to scare these kids who are trying to prank them. And then Michael ends up slipping into the house, and it's Big John and Little John. They try to, obviously figure out what the hell's going on in their house, and they both end up getting murdered. I just thought that was an awesome, awesome scene.
Yeah, I mean, I would have rather had a whole movie based around Big John and Little John, who were the most likable characters at all in this movie by far. Right. I would have rather had them doing a home defense movie against Michael Myers rather than Tommy Lee Waller or Tommy Doyle, who's, we didn't get into it, but he's the boogeyman's coming for me and the boogeyman's coming for you. And Marion Chambers, who's going, this one's for Dr. Loomis.
Yeah.
Just terrible. Shitty writing all the way through with these legacy characters. Even though the Tommy Doyle character is a new actor, it's just, what are we doing with these, names that Halloween fans are supposed to be excited about, but they're just making them shitty, man. Yeah, give me Big John and Little John the movie. Would have loved them. They were the best new characters in that film.
Yeah, I agree. I thought it was super exciting, and I've talked about this before, is like the Myers house as a character, if you will. And what you got going on, son?
Do you hear the
Why do I
Halloween
hear my
Lives?
voice? Why do I hear my voice right now?
I don't know why,
Ladies
man.
and gentlemen, I'm so sorry about the lack of professionalism on Austin's part for episode 72. It's quite a disgrace, and I'm disgusted, quite honestly.
I thought I was having a stroke. There were two of you talking.
Yeah, me too. I know. Well, I was like, is that I hear my voice? And why am I talking? Whatever, it doesn't matter. I don't even know where the hell I was at. I lost my train of thought because I heard myself in my headphones. But yeah, I agree. They're the best characters. Oh, I know what I was talking about. I was talking about the Myers house and that being a character in itself. Like I really think that what they did was they brought this back. I mean, they brought the Myers house back, and they brought it into present day. They made it a part. They made the house a part of the community again, or at least these owners did. And it was sort of in my mind, like I think about it. I love Amityville and the Amityville series and things like that, and it's all about this house, right? And I look at the real house and how it's been completely redone, and the owners have tried to make it a part of the community again, even though it has this horrible history, and the town has tried to move on. And I don't know, maybe that's why I like it so much, because I also like that story. But I thought it paralleled that really nicely, as far as this house is a character, this house has a story to tell, and they did a really good job of bringing that story back into the mix, and obviously doing it with the present day owners, who end up getting murdered out by our boy Mike, because nobody should be living in his childhood home.
Yeah, I mean, it is cool, and it's realistic to have. There's the Halloween 8 approach, where it's become this dilapidated haunted house. I think it's more realistic that this house would survive in this quiet town of Haddonfield. It would get treated like nothing ever happened there, more
Right.
so than it would get treated like anything that would draw further attention to it, I should say.
Right. Meanwhile, escaped convict Anthony Tivoli turns out to be the mysterious driver of Vanessa's car, is chased by Tommy's mob after being believed to be Michael by the Haddonfield citizens. So here's another interesting fact. I applied to be a firefighter for Halloween Kills. Austin actually applied to be Anthony Tivoli for Halloween Kills, and he was runner-up to that job. So congratulations on that. But they had a lot in common, especially in the looks department. I think that was probably why you were like the front man for it until the very end, and then they found out you couldn't act worth a shit, right? Is that what it was?
Well, I went in there thinking I was going to be in the guy in the glasses from the first movie going Figaro, and I didn't realize I was supposed to be the bald, long-haired guy,
right?
Who was also in that scene. So it was a common miscommunication there.
Yeah, I get it. Better luck next time. Same with me, right? Everybody gets a second chance once in a while. So, yeah. So I just wanted to point that out for everybody to know. I will say that is a gnarly death scene when he leaps off that building and like his legs are all busted up, and like that was gruesome. That was, I mean, so gruesome. It's almost surprising that it only had an R rating, because that was just a gruesome scene.
It's some of the most realistic like gore I've ever seen in a movie.
Right. Yeah, I would agree with that. I just lost my place here. Let's go back here. All right. Okay, so I jumped ahead a little bit of myself, but to avoid being harassed by the Haddonfield citizens, Tivoli commits suicide by jumping out of the hospital's window to his death, while Lori suffers an injury to her recent wound. I'm going to stop there, because once again, this is ridiculous what we're dealing with here. So Lori, all of a sudden, she finds out that Michael is alive, and she just like gets up out of bed after having open stomach surgery. She's literally probably stapled to holy hell. And she's getting up, and she tells the nurse, I don't remember what she tells the nurse, but she takes the freaking whatever it is that she takes, and she stabs it in her ass to make it, fix her pain, basically take away her pain. And it's just like, what is happening here? What are we doing? This is not believable at all.
Well, and this is the peak of the evil dies tonight movement.
Yeah.
That we're seeing right here. I get it. It's another level of commotion going through the halls of the hospital where people are getting like trampled trying to get to Michael Myers, and that's cool, whatever. But it is so heavy-handed. This like Michael has created a demon or a monster out of this city, just
Right.
like Michael himself is a monster. It's so in your face that like you look back at a movie like H4 where they did it and they didn't make you feel like, oh, I think they're trying to tell us this. And
Right.
it was during, the 2020 election. All of this like big stuff was happening in the United States, and I think they were trying to send some message out
Right.
of
I
this,
agree.
and it
Yeah.
was so dumb and so not well done.
Right.
There, if I don't have to use my brain power to try to make the connection, um it's too heavy-handed, like I said. And
Well,
yeah, go ahead.
oh, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I was just gonna say, I remember when David Gordon Green did an interview before this film was released, and he had mentioned something about like he was gonna maybe like COVID would be somehow brought into this, and I was like, if they freaking throw COVID into this movie in any capacity, like politics aside, I don't care, right? But if they put COVID in this film, I'm gonna be pissed because that is like you go to the movies to escape reality, right?
Yeah.
And at that time, the world was upside down. Nobody knew which way was up because we were dealing with COVID, and I didn't want to go to the movies to be exposed to more COVID talk. So I don't know if he was saying that tongue in cheek, and I'm sure he obviously was because we didn't get it. But he had mentioned something along the lines that there may be elements of the pandemic being brought in. Now, was he referring to all this like this? The pandemic was the mob, like the mob was the pandemic. I don't know, but I remember at that time I was like, oh hell no, do not do that. Do not do that. I'm not going to your film to hear more about the pandemic.
Well, and it was just like I didn't want that time stamped. I mean, frankly, it's a
Right.
it's a period of life I'd like to forget about, and I didn't want to have to go back to a movie I know I'll watch every October.
Right.
In the same way, like you wouldn't want Y2K in H2O. Like it's
Right.
going to be such a non-factor in 20 years when people watch this movie that like why are we even considering it? Either way,
Yeah.
this is the
Glad
height of the stupidity. This is
it,
where things are at an all-time stupid.
Evil Dies Tonight. You heard the chants. It was terrible. Terrible. I mean, I legit was getting angry at how much they were saying it because it was just so stupid. And going back before that, like before Marion was killed, before Marion Chambers was killed, like there was a whole scene where they were like going around like "Evil dies tonight," and then Sheriff
Evil
Brackett,
dies tonight.
yeah,
Like,
exactly. Yeah, what is happening? Like, I'm gonna lose it if I hear "Evil dies tonight" one more time. But we should actually make that like a little like audio snippet just to anger me. Like if I'm just too jovial in an episode, you could just like hit the "Evil dies tonight" button and be like, "You mother."
yeah, just
You let's
instantly
let's
drop your mood.
bring in the rage. But no, I just absolutely hated that. All right, continuing on. So, bedridden, Lori urges Karen to help hunt down Michael with Tommy. At Michael's childhood home, Lonnie heads in alone, but Allison and Cameron follow and find Lonnie's body in the attic as Michael subsequently murders Cameron upstairs. Let's talk about this death scene for a second because this was a really gnarly death scene as well. Cameron's death scene. Lonnie's happens off camera. You hear a gunshot. So you know he's encountered something inside of the Myers house, but you don't necessarily know what happens. And at this point, Allison and Cameron go in, and there's this sort of showdown, I guess, with Michael and Allison ends up falling down the stairs, and she like twists her ankle or breaks her ankle or something. I don't even know. But Cameron is like basically incapacitated on the stairwell or stairway, and Michael just like realizes that he's still alive and just freaking snaps his head around. And that's a nasty death scene.
Dude, this is one of my favorite scenes in the movie, and it's because it's the most simple stuff going on. You've got Allison at the bottom of the stairs, and I think at this point Cameron's been stabbed or hurt in some way, like you said,
Yeah.
incapacitated, where his head is right there, and Michael's kind of just leaving him be. And then he comes around the corner of the staircase and he's walking down, And I don't know if Cameron says something to Allison like get out of here, but Michael stops on the staircase and he turns and he's like, just kidding, I'm gonna murder this bitch.
I didn't finish my business here. Yeah.
One of the best deaths in that movie, and just so effective, and like that was probably the height of any like tension in that film. Like it was tense in that scene when they were going in there. They knew Lonnie was probably dead, and they knew the boogeyman was in that house.
Right. Yeah, it is a great, absolute great scene. So Allison breaks her leg after falling down the stairs as Karen stabs Michael with a pitchfork. She removes his mask, and taunts him, allowing Allison to escape. Karen leads Michael to Tommy's mob down the street. Michael is subsequently swarmed by the mob and gets beaten, seemingly killed, when Karen delivers the final blow with the knife. So, here, once again, ridiculousness happening in this scene. If there was ever a real mob, I would hope that the people who are this mob would not be gathering some of the tools and weapons that this mob did, because there's literally, like, isn't there a woman there with a freaking, is it an iron? Is that what it is? Like
she is the Iron Maiden. That's what she's credited as, I believe, is the Iron Maiden. Because she's just a lady with they're like the
clothes iron. Yeah. And it's like, that was the best thing you could grab. You were leaving your house like, I'm gonna go kill Michael Myers. What do I got here? What do I got? I'm not gonna take the baseball bat. I'm not gonna take the fire poker. Oh, I know, I got this iron right here. I'm gonna take this thing with me. What?
Like, I'm gonna get this close to Michael to try to kill him. And this scene, it's just I don't know. I didn't like it. As soon as I saw where it was going, I wasn't liking it, man. It was
they beat Michael's ass. They beat his ass.
Yeah, absolutely. But like in reality, if this was truly Michael, they don't do any sort of like big finishing blows. Like, we need to be stomping this dude's head. He clearly does not get affected by.
He does take like 3 rounds to the chest, though.
He does,
which is pretty incredible. Like, yeah, that's a pretty good shot. But yeah, otherwise, I agree. I mean, they beat his ass, but there's not, to your point, not like the final blow. Like, nobody walks up with a 12 gauge and literally like takes his head off.
Yep.
So as the mob disperses, Michael gets up and slits Brackett's throat. He then kills the mob one by one, ending with Tommy, who is slain with his own baseball bat. Returning to Michael's childhood home, Karen stares into the upstairs window. Karen recalls a story about Michael endlessly staring out the same window, but Michael confronts her and seemingly stabs her to death as Lori stares out the hospital window with Michael staring out the window. So unexpected. I knew there was, probably going to be something big that happened at the end of this film, because we knew Halloween Ends at this point it was going to be a thing. We knew that this was going to be a trilogy. So Lori obviously wasn't leaving the hospital, and you were trying to figure out, okay, what the hell is going to happen here? How is this thing going to end? And you knew it was going to end on some sort of cliffhanger. And I don't know if it was ever shot, but there is a alternate scene, end scene, where Lori is actually like listening, or she's on the phone, and Michael picks up the phone much like he does in 78, and all he's doing is breathing, and she basically says, like, I'm coming for you. And I think that's actually how the book ends, if I remember correctly. If you read the novel, that's how the novel ends as well, which I think is a better ending. Like, the fact that they killed off Karen is whatever, that's fine and dandy, but I like that more, that Lori actually can hear Michael breathing, because they don't even interact in this film at all. Michael and Lori have zero interaction whatsoever. So it would have been kind of cool to know, like, that is the lead up to what we're going to get in the next film, which we know is going to be the final showdown between Michael and Lori. Like, this is it. And I think that would have been a way cooler ending to me personally.
Yeah, I agree. I have problems with the last 5 minutes of that movie in general. The like shallow depth of field where it's like black behind Michael as Laurie's giving this speech. It's like some superhero intro, where, she's talking about as Michael Moore. As he kills, he transcends. there's this like more than
Right.
a man theory that's really in there. And you know, if you watch the show, you know I don't like Michael being anything more than just a
Right.
loose screw. But I hate the little montage at the end. I really checked out of the movie when that started happening. I don't mind that Karen dies at the end. What I do mind is the expansion of the lore. It's talked about in the flashback scene, and then it's brought to fruition here that Michael stares out his window. Again, it to me, the reason I don't like it is because it makes it seem like Michael was kind of always like this, and he didn't just snap one night, which was, I think,
Right.
the intended idea about him. But yeah, it's I too would have probably preferred Laurie and Michael to have some interaction because we only got 3 more movies with Jamie Lee Curtis, and we did miss a whole movie of the two of them interacting, and really you don't see a whole lot of it in Halloween Ends until their big battle either.
Right. The one thing that I also didn't like, and it's just it's the realist in me, is the fact that Alice. So literally, the Myers house is a crime scene. There are 4 dead bodies in this house, right? You have Little John, Big John, you have Ronnie, and you have Cameron. All 4 of them had just died in this house. So this house should be on lockdown. There should be nobody close to this thing except for police officers and police detectives and law enforcement officials going in and out of this house. But Allison and Karen are just like chilling on the front steps, like oh yeah, that's Cameron's dead head hanging over me. No, that ain't no thing. I mean,
I'm
what's a
just
crime?
gonna get up here to enjoy the view out this window, huh?
Yeah, exactly. And then Karen is just goes and just like, hey, I'll be back in a minute. And she's just gonna enter this crime scene and walk through God knows what. Like it's just so not believable. And I think it bothers me more because I'm like kind of live in that world a little bit. But anybody with half a brain should know that that would never ever happen. So I hate the fact that she just is like, oh, I'm going to go up and stare out this window and explore and whatever. And then you obviously, you also get the shot of the cell phone tower, the radio tower. And you see that a
Yeah.
couple times, in this film, and then it obviously becomes a bigger part of Halloween Ends. But there were rumors at the time that was what Michael was staring at, was this radio tower, and that the radio tower was what was driving him to basically do what he was doing. And I was like, dude, if they do that, I'm gonna be pissed. Like I would much rather see like the Michael Myers mask was a silver shamrock mask, and that was what was actually driving him to do what he was doing, rather than like it's a radio tower. But you do see the radio tower appear, like you see the red lights flashing off in the distance. But I am glad that that they obviously didn't go with that. So yeah, that's Halloween Kills. I mean, where does this thing land? If you're grading this thing, where does it land for you?
Dude, there are parts of this movie. It has a few really great scenes, and the thing is, typically, and I'm sure the comments are probably already down below us, so people telling us why we're full of shit. But typically, you are either a Halloween Ends person or a Halloween Kills person. You and I are both very much Halloween Ends people.
Right.
I would say, uh, God, this is probably like a 5 out of 10 for me, man. It has such high highs. I mean, the flashback scene, Cameron's death, the firefighter scene, those are 10 out of 10 scenes.
Right.
But there are some 0 out of 10 scenes in this movie that really bring it down for me. And so yeah, I think it's a mid movie. It's 5 out of 10 for me.
Yeah, I'm kind of right there with you. To be honest with you, I really am. I mean, there's just not much. Like, if I was gonna like give this movie a grade, it would be a D, maybe D minus. But I'm gonna give it a D because it's a Halloween film. But I'm just not a fan. It definitely falls towards the bottom of my watch list. There are some things that I love about it. I love the flashback scene. I love Big John, Little John. There's some really great kills in this movie, but it's just overboard with the kills, with the some of the stuff that is going on. It's overboard, and I think that's the only way that I can describe it. Is it's overboard. It should be Halloween overboard, because that's what it is. But yeah, what do you guys think? I mean, I think we've heard from a lot of you, and I know personally a lot of people who've seen this movie who also don't care for it. But we want to hear from you guys. Let us know down in the comments. What do you guys think? Are we completely off with where we graded this film? Is it, are we showing too much love for ends and not enough for kills? We want to hear your reasoning, because I've seen this film now probably 10 times, and every time I watch it, I always walk away from it disappointed, thinking the exact same thing. But, let us know down below. Hit us up in the comments. And obviously, if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. Let us know how you like the show. We have had a ton of subscribers lately, and our videos are blowing up. I don't know what the hell happened. The last video, the episode 70, got like 2,000 views already, which is insane. More than 2,000 views. So for any new people out there who are just catching us on this on this channel, thanks for joining. We've got a ton of content that's obviously going to be coming up, and including next week, we're going to be dialing up the whole Halloween Ends talk. If you guys have not heard us talk about enough about Halloween Ends yet, we're going to do that more next week for episode 73. But that's going to do it for this episode. And we appreciate you guys being here with us as we take somewhat of a deep dive into this film and talk about it. And at the end of the day, even though we do shit on this film, it's a Halloween movie. We love it. We'll watch it every single year, and we'll enjoy every second of it, because it is a Michael Myers film. So for Blaine Duncan and Austin Duncan, that's going to do it for episode number 72 of Halloween Lives, the podcast of Michael Myers. We'll see you guys next week for episode 73 as we talk about Halloween Ends.
It's going to get controversial.